I will personally come back to you on that. Are you sure you are not more suitable for fiscal finance? Maoga, the issue in power sector today, I'll tell you, is not just technical problem. My technical background is in engineering. I understand fundamentals of engineering. But the issues today is not only technical problem. The issues are far-reaching. There are governance issue. There have been 2 questions on liquidity, capitalization issue, sustainability issue. I'm not running away from the fact that there are technical issues, but I believe with the skills and background I have in engineering and skills that I have in finance over time, I can put that to bear to ensure we address all the myriad of issues. I don't know it all. Why I need to draw resources, I'll draw resources. But what it means is that you can use me as your utility player. Thank you.
Thank you.
This next phase in 100 days is to stabilize that grid. There are questions around grid collapse. And then we need to roll out metering. Last year, we rolled out 1 million meters across the country. It is never done before. It's something we should applaud Mr. President for. What we do need to do is to accelerate that and ensure we roll out more. Question 4 came from my godfather, Senator Oji Uzo Kalu. A man I respect a lot. I've worked with him severally. He's someone I look up to. You asked the problems in transmission, which I've touched on now. Biggest problem we have in transmission is the grid collapse. It's unusual. Sometimes you inherit a problem that you never know how it was conceived. Most countries today, it's difficult to find any other country that has one single grid, national grid. And that's where we're shifting towards mini grids. MD of REA is here. We're trying to do mini grids even using solar and other renewables. 70% of our generation today is gas. But we have abundance of gas. It's how to get the gas to the point of generation of power. We will fix it. AKK is almost completed. Where we need to take the tour from the pipeline to supply industrial areas, we'll do that. And when you do that, and you also encourage subnationals, and I'll touch on subnationals, there's a question on subnationals, and you encourage subnationals to also generate, you free up the grid, the central grid. And then you can have time to actually fix that grid. And those are the kind of things I want us to we'll look at. You asked a very sensitive question. You asked on the value chain challenge. Why don't you allow people to take it end to end? If you generate, transmit, and distribute. We've seen something similar at the subnationals. Because when you have a catchment area, it means you can generate for that catchment area, you can transmit to the people in that catchment area, and you can build in that catchment area. So you can do that, those smaller scales. We will encourage that to happen at smaller scales. But again, closely watch that our people, the vulnerable, are being served. Because even in the telecom sector that we celebrate today, some of my colleagues in telecom sectors are here, the truth was that the vulnerable had to be protected. Because no businessman wants to do business without making profit. So you must have policies that ensure that while they are making their profit, the less privileged, the poor and the vulnerable people in Nigeria are protected. And that's going to be my guiding principle. Question 5. For distinguished Senator Ekong Samson from Akwa Ibom. 70% of our people live in rural areas. How will we ensure they're adequately served? We all come from rural areas before we migrated to urban areas. And our parents, our family, extended families are still there. Their need is not even huge, because in those rural areas, they don't use air conditioners, they don't use some of the things we use in the rural. How do we ensure that when you have mini grids effectively deployed, and you have subnationals generating and producing, you free up that grid, the national grid, and then that national grid can then serve those people. That would then make that more available. So it's a chicken and egg thing. As you are pushing this, the national grid can then serve our people in the rural area. We'll do that deliberately, because it has to be done deliberately. Because also, the vulnerables, you're not going to make money from there. It's a social responsibility to say that they should have access to power. And we will make sure that is part of our strategy. Subnationals is a top priority for me. The act that this Halo Chamber passed to empower subnationals to invest in power sector must be made to realize its objectives. And that is why Abba is a good model, is a good example. It's happening. We're all happy as Nigerians. Enugu is following suit. Bayelsa is doing the same. A couple of other subnationals are doing the same. We will collaborate with them. The way we do collaborate at an NGF level with governors, we will make sure the framework of that collaboration, we are working on it to ensure that not only do we monitor and guide what they are doing, deliberately we need to talk to DFIs and investors to actually invest, to support them. And if there's need, we will also make sure the government supports those subnationals to realize those objectives. Because the more that works, the more you free the national grid and you can fix the other national issues. You asked the question on tariffs, which was also asked by other distinguished senators. How do we ensure tariffs are reflective of realities and not oppressive? There's always concern that when you invest, especially when you have international investors in the utility sector, you have to be careful to ensure that the vulnerable are protected. The same model is available anywhere. It's not rocket science. We've done it in other sectors. We'll do it in power. I think the challenge more of power is the fact that availability and delivery. We also need to ensure that industries, SMEs have access to power as long as the vulnerables are done. The last question came from distinguished Senator Alero. Sir, you did state that from 1999 to date, trillions of naira have been spent without much result. It's a pain and concern to us. And to Mr. President, when I met with him after my nomination, I asked him to pray for me. I wish you were there that night so that you could have added your own grace to the prayer. I asked him to pray for me. And he said, Tigbe, I have prayed for you before giving you this job. This is a very daunting task. But I'm not going to do it alone. Since 1999, trillions have been invested. This Halo House Assembly, this chamber, We're going to come to you with difficult decisions. Your constituents will run to you. Please tell them to bear with us. There may be small pain, but we'll get there. Because we are going to have a disciplined approach to addressing this. I'll come and present to you what our plan is. We clear milestones. If you don't see this in 3 months, it means you won't see 6 months. So you must see the 3 months, and you must hold us accountable for it. When we put those things together in the next 1 or 2 weeks, we'll come to you and present them to you. So we will put a stop to that leakage, to that bleeding, and all the challenges that we have. Market reflective tariffs. We advise government to charge market reflective tariff. When we get there, the industry has to be mature enough. Because power is an essential commodity. You must take into consideration the social responsibility that the country has, the federal government has. So the vulnerable has to be protected. People that can afford to pay, who need it, rather than using generators. Rather than the guys who are buying generators and spend even 3, 4, 4 times. When you give them the right tariff, they will pay. And we'll do the same model. And I will remember what you said. And I'll come back and you can hold me responsible. But before you can charge market reflective tariffs, you have to build trust. We'll build that trust, we'll protect the vulnerable, and we'll ensure that whatever we're charging is sustainable. The last question I got from the Senate President, I know it was comment. 2 comments. The first one was on DSTV. Why not pay as you go in Nigeria? It's something we should bring to the attention of the regulator. If you remember, sometimes competition brings competitiveness. Okay? Telecom sector, when we started, Wille is here. He was in V-Mobile at that time. We were being charged fix-up until Glo came and Glo started pay as you go. The moment he started pay as you go, the industry changed. We'll look at that, and it's something that has to be seriously addressed. If you pay for 1 year and you lock up your house for 6 months, you come back and you've lost 6 months tariff. It doesn't seem fair, and it's something